Welcome to The Real Story, where I talk about what is real. You know, I'm wondering when we, the people, are going to have had enough and decide it is time to stand strong for America's soul and sanity. When are we going to hold politicians and pundits accountable for reckless rhetoric? I'm not talking about canceling them. In fact, I find the kangaroo court of public opinion appalling and destructive. No. I'm talking about telling them to just stop it. Stop it. Enough already. Case in point. Earlier this week, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had what I consider to be ignorance and insensitivity in comparing federal immigration agents, ICE, to the Gestapo. Does he even know what he's saying? Look, you can disagree vehemently with ICE policy without making incendiary accusations about fellow Americans. So what's the real story about the Gestapo, and why are the governor's words so repulsive and dangerous? Well, let's look at the headlines. Tim Walz calls ICE a modern-day Gestapo. Agency calls comparisons sickening. Walz ripped for sickening use of Nazi-era language describing Trump's immigration policy. Walz dials up Trump derangement syndrome to new apex of insanity. Another headline, delicate DHS flowers triggered after Tim Walz calls ICE Gestapo. Now here's the details. Walz is addressing law students at the University of Minnesota.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
Now that's not just false, it's historically obscene. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's just talk about who were Gestapo. They were central to the Nazis' regime of mass murder, torture, and genocide. Does that equal ICE? And if you're sitting there saying, yeah, sure does. Well, really? Because what's genocide? Genocide is the intentional destruction of an ethnic group, mass killing to eliminate an entire culture. You think that's what's happening? You think that's a good description of what's going on? Gestapo were state-sanctioned terrorists with absolute power, ruthlessly eliminating opposition to Nazis. They went after leftists, intellectuals, Jews, trade unions, political clergy, and homosexuals. They used all types of torture, sleep deprivation, rubber hoses and truncheons, leather straps, steel rods. They would torture, pull out their toenails with their bare hands. Beatings were an art form. And we all know, unless you're a Holocaust denier, that they sent Jews to their death.
The Geiringer family had been rounded up earlier by the Gestapo and deported to Auschwitz.
There was a coordinated deportation of Jews, not to prisons, but to concentration camps and killing sites. The Gestapo was a key instrument in the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews. They were declared a criminal organization at the Nuremberg trials, convicted of war crimes against humanity. To say ICE is a modern-day Gestapo, that's not just hyperbole. It's a type of anti-Semitism known as Holocaust trivialization or distortion. Holocaust comparisons diminish the magnitude of those atrocities.
All our hair was shaved and naked, and then they told us, now it's your turn to go in the shower. Of course, we didn't want to go, but we were pushed into it. But it was an actual shower.
Holocaust analogies often feed conspiracy theories that downplay or deny the Holocaust. Misusing terms like Gestapo desensitizes the public to real anti-Semitic violence and genocide. ICE versus Gestapo, there's no comparison. The Gestapo had no legal restraint. They had the power to detain and torture and execute without trial. ICE, on the other hand, enforces immigration law. If you don't like it, change it. ICE doesn't engage in ethnic cleansing. They don't engage in genocide. And if you say they do, you're just lying to yourself. They operate under U.S. law with constitutional oversight. Gestapo's mission was to eliminate political opposition. ICE's mandate is immigration enforcement. The Gestapo was an instrument in exterminating 6 million people to create a master race.
What became known as the final solution to the Jewish question was a carefully planned and organized effort to maximize the killing and destroy every Jew the Nazis could find.
ICE is not rounding up political opponents and torturing people and sending them to gas chambers. Come on. They're enforcing immigration law, whether you like the law or not. If you don't, then change it. I'm a huge proponent of immigration. We need immigration. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security posted this on X. It is absolutely sickening to compare ICE law enforcement agents to the Gestapo. Attacks and demonization of ICE and our partners is wrong. ICE officers are now facing a 413% increase in assaults. Our message is clear. Do not come to this country illegally. If you do, we will arrest you, deport you, and you will never return. According to the data tracked through May 12th on NBC News, 48,846 people have been deported so far under the Trump administration. 30.8% with criminal convictions, 26.1% with pending criminal charges, 43.5% listed as other criminal violators, 10% fast-track for deportation. Even if that pace holds, there will be under 1 million deportations, far less than past administrations. There were 12+ million under Clinton, 10+ million under Bush, 5+ million under Obama. So what's the real story? Well, the real story is you can debate immigration policy all day, but you cannot compare American law enforcement officers, many of them veterans, parents, and your neighbors, to Hitler's death squads. The rhetoric is just wrong, and it is dangerous, and it incites hatred and fear. ICE is not the Gestapo, and calling them that's not brave, that's not righteous, that's just wrong. And that's the real story. Now, I'm going to keep telling the real story, whether people like it or whether they don't. And if you want to hear more of them, just click the button to subscribe down below. You'll find this wherever podcast players are and on YouTube. I'll see you tomorrow. This episode is brought to you by Masa Chips. For decades, chips were fried in tallow until big corporations switched to cheap seed oils. Now, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories, linked to inflammation and metabolic issues. Masa is bringing back the good stuff with 3 simple ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No seed oils, no junk, just a crunchy, sturdy chip that won't break in your guac. Masa Chips is beloved by tens of thousands of customers and has been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Ready to give Masa a try? Go to masachips.com/merit and use code MERIT for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/merit and code MERIT for 25% off your first order.